Hi, I'm Tanya Yuki, founder and CEO of Shareably. We're grateful for this opportunity to discuss social media in this Age of Disruption series with the University of Minnesota. Now, for those unfamiliar with Shareably, just quickly, Shareably tracks social media behavior and provides insight by monitoring over 1 million global companies and 15 million influencers. Our data set is global in nature, although for today's discussion, we'll be focusing just on what's happening here in the United States. Today, we're going to be looking at three areas. Number one, is social media usage up or down throughout the current crisis? Number two is, given everything that's going on, what are some actual best practices for brands, businesses, content creators with the backdrop of COVID-19? And then thirdly, while it's pretty early to be able to say definitively, what trends do we think will settle into this new reality or new normal that will persist beyond the crisis? The data you'll see is both from our always-on everyday behaviour tracking and also from some consumer surveys that Shareably has been fielding in 3 waves since early March through to the middle of April. So let's jump into the first section. To start, we're seeing consumers online now more than ever. That's pretty intuitive, right? We're stuck at home, we're not able to go out and spend time with people in real life, and we're spending more time than ever with social media across pretty much every platform. In fact, our survey finds that people are seeking breaking news up to 10 times each day, if you see here in the main. In all waves of our survey, search and social media were the 2 go-to places for COVID-related news. But what was really interesting in the most recent wave that we ran, which you can see right here, social media actually overtook online search as the preferred source for COVID-19 news. Now, what I think that means is, as people sort of settle into the shell shock of what's going on, they're less seeking information and they're more getting that information pushed to them. And that's probably a trend that we'll continue to see moving forward. These increases are happening pretty consistently across age and gender. Younger adults under 45 actually seeing the highest increases in social media activity. You'll see about half of older adults, 55%, are also increasing their usage. And the only group that seems to be dropping down a little are those between the 45 to 54 years, who are probably also the most likely to have school-aged kids and to be tackling with a lot of challenges of homeschooling with young adults and kid policing. And as you can see here, all platforms are being used as sources of COVID-19 information. Early on, Facebook was very, very dominant, but as you can see, consumers are going to look for information in all of their feeds, and usage increases have really become more spread across all platforms as this pandemic has developed. Moving to Shareably's actual behavioural data, we see something really dramatic when comparing the volume of consumer social engagement with the amount of actual content being put out into the world by brands, creators, and publishers. Now, a lot of this reflects the reluctance that many marketers are feeling about how exactly to get involved in this current environment. But what the trends are showing is, even though content by all the brands and media companies and creators in the US is down by 5%, consumer engagement is actually up by 9%. So there's a real hunger for more entertainment, more information, and more evergreen content. So there's a great opportunity to show up and be relevant. Now, in order to get it right in this current climate, a key question for content creators, marketers, and businesses to ask themselves is, does this social content that we're creating provide useful information? Is it relatable? Is it empathetic? Is it adding value when it comes to the new normal? You know, if your business is solely focused on BAU, business as usual messaging, it's going to be quite a struggle, particularly if the messaging encourages anything which isn't considered responsible behavior right now when it comes to being out in the street or anything like that. Now, some examples of ways that we're seeing brands support social distancing. There's, some great tips from SodaStream on how to make your seltzer at home so you don't have to go to the grocery store. Guinness has done some great work promoting hosting virtual happy hours, but everything is really focused on helping consumers adjust to their new environments and to sort of keep some of the enjoyments or creature comforts that maybe they were used to prior to this pandemic sitting in. Moving along here, you can see some examples of how retailers are helping audiences tackle working from home and being much more grounded at home. They're taking a bit of a lighter tone. There's some help around wardrobe, how to adjust to being both comfortable at home but also appropriate, as well as some great tips around acts of kindness and ways that brands can be giving back throughout this environment. And then lastly, there's a big theme around giving back and gratitude and creating more of a sense of community. So you can see here, there's a lot of celebrities, brands, publishers calling out many of our frontline workers and gratitudes there. There's also, this great post with Owen, which went pretty viral across many different news outlets. I'm pretty sure he ended up getting not the 101,000 likes that he was hoping for, but just over 3 million likes across all platforms. So we sincerely hope that Owen had a good birthday. So another big opportunity is asking ourselves, can my content reveal during this difficult time that my company has a soul? There's always thought by marketers to talk about what you stand for in usual conditions, but right now consumers are really demanding that and they're very hungry for it. Here are some companies in a position to help directly. Ford Motor Company is getting active, Ralph Lauren, some other fashion designers making masks, in some cases even ventilators, hand sanitizers. So all of these are great examples of how companies are supporting their community by either donating or creating goods that are going to be really high value during this difficult time. Hopefully these are seeds that we can start sowing now that will persist well beyond this crisis. And then just one word of caution to leave you with. Even though the average brand is posting about 50% of their content with their regular programming, and consumers, by and large, are not sort of lashing out or feeling that that's inappropriate. I know that's a big concern for many brands right now. Be really careful about how that business as usual content is framed. This is just one example by Victoria's Secret that sort of references being all dressed up, which typically is a precursor to going out. And the weight of comments is jumping in going, no, stay home. So consumers are very sensitive to anything from brands that might be supporting what they would view as irresponsible citizenship or anything that is not going to be good for the community as a whole. So business as usual content is okay, but just make sure that it's not pushing consumers to do anything that could put their communities or themselves at risk. Looking ahead, we recommend focusing on 3 key areas that are probably not going to go all the way back to what they were. The first is the importance of social connection and community. Consumers have increased their usage of social media as part of their daily lives even more throughout this pandemic, and that's something that's not going to change. The growth will continue both as a way to get reliable information as well as participatory entertainment and community involvement. So brands really need to think about how to make sure that social is an integrated part of their overall marketing mix, even beyond the crisis when we come back to more live events and other forms of marketing. The second, and this is one that I personally hope really persists and I believe will, is this identity shift that we're seeing across society of a movement from consumer to citizen. People are much less focused on themselves right now. And as with an event like 9/11, this spirit of connection is going to persist. And there's an acceleration of the sustainability and purpose marketing trend that did predate the crisis, but this is something that's really going to continue and become something that consumers demand of the companies that they support. And then finally, this view and opportunity around innovation. Couple fun facts. I mean, do you realize that Isaac Newton came up with his theory of gravity while in quarantine? Thomas Edison founded General Electric during the Panic of 1893. New ideas and ways of accomplishing success will be born of this crisis. The question is, how is your company thinking this through and potentially leading the charge here? Whether it will be a national restaurant chain developing transcontinental remote meals, or the ability for a hotel chain that goes beyond clean sheets to guaranteeing complete germ sanitization, turnover practices, a lot of the post-COVID world is going to look fundamentally different to the current world that we're in. So really pushing yourselves and your colleagues and your companies to think beyond the current crisis to how you're going to be leading the charge as the world returns back to some of its other practices. So really glad you could join for some of these updates. Shareably does have a ton of information on ongoing research that we've been conducting throughout the coronavirus crisis, as well as just general trends. So definitely please feel free to visit us at shareably.com, download some of the information and messages, or reach out if there's any way that we can be helpful to you.